It's your boy Manny here, and before we get to this episode, just want to let you guys know that our donation page is up and active at buymeacoffee.com. Links are in our bio for our Instagram and our Twitter, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/NAIAWomensHoopreport. It is set up to where it's voluntary. Whatever donation amount you want to give is the donation amount that you can give. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/NAIAWomensHoopreport. Any amount you guys do give will be put right back into the brand. It'll be put right back into the product, whether that's for coverage, whether that's growing the brand, whatever the case is. Any donations made will be put right back into what we are trying to build for this brand. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/NAIAWomensHoopreport. Now on to the rest of the episode. What's up, Evergreen Nation? It's your boy Manny here, and welcome back to the Report, the Women's Basketball Podcast, episode number 4. We're already 4 episodes in, just like that. When you guys are watching this, it is going to be the 21st of August. Like talked about, this is your first episode. First of all, go watch the other 3. You're doing, you got to stay in order. But like I said in those other 3 episodes, we're doing this a little different this year, at least to start the season. When it comes to these preseason previews, still doing all 20 conferences like we did last year. Still going to be hitting on almost every team, we will hit on every team, not as in depth as some other teams in each conference. But going to be pre-recording these episodes as we go through the rest of the summer. For me, it is June 16th. For you all, it is August 21st. So keep that in mind in terms of when news is being broken, stuff like that. At the time that I'm recording this, I had already recorded the Mid-South, and after that, it was announced that Lindsey Wilson, head coach, would be resigning and moving on to a different role. Obviously, that would have changed a lot of things. Not too much. Obviously, new era, who's staying, who's going. I still stand by what I said in that episode from that, but I wanted to give that quick hit there for the Mid-South, because obviously that was the episode you guys just watched this past Monday. But we're going to be focused on the Cascade. The Cascade is the conference that we're going to be touching on today. Continue kind of housekeeping notes. Everything that I'm talking about today has been given to me by the day that I am recording this, so keep that in mind. Any players or anything like that, I was found on Instagram or on social media. I feel like it is common. It is out there, so therefore I can talk about it. For the ones that aren't out there that, I didn't know about, it's different, or I didn't want to be the one to break it. Again, by the time you guys are watching this, it probably would have already been broken, but still want to be able to give a little bit of privacy to those coaches who did come go through and complete the Google form that was sent out earlier this summer. If you didn't, it's fine. I understand that. Understand for the fans at home, the information I came with between research and what coaches did provide throughout their Google forms and whatnot. The Cascade. Gonna get right into it. The biggest thing with the Cascade, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I'm excited about this one. This is one of the ones I was really looking forward to kind of deep diving and talking about, mainly because I think we're going to have a very much repeat of the Cascade. I don't believe there's going to be too much new that comes out of the Cascade in terms of just everything that happened last year. I mean, I have been on record saying the Crossroads was the best conference last year in NAIA women's basketball. Rightfully so. They had the most teams in the national tournament. They produced national tournament champion. So that's safe. But the Cascade was a very, 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 very close second. And at times throughout the season, it was the number 1 in my book because it was just a dog fight. Going to get right into it. The focus for these preseasons for these preseason conference previews has been the food chain, the ecosystem. This is how I feel the ecosystem is for the Cascade. Probably the most apex predators in this conference: Eastern Oregon, College of Idaho, Lewis-Clarke State, Oregon Tech, Southern Oregon. Again, your elite, your contenders. Then you have one hunter, in my opinion. That is Corban. I'll get to why Corban is a hunter and the sole hunter in a few moments here. Then your trappers, teams that could maybe cause some mayhem, a Northwest, Warner Pacific, Bushnell, and then you've got Walla Walla and Evergreen as your growers. My ecosystem notes, it's going to be a lot about recruiting class versus returning class. So some of these teams are going to have very, very, very good recruiting classes. Some of them have really, really good returning groups. I think it's going to be a mesh of the old school, new school in those type of situations. But as you can see there from my final thoughts, we're just going to be in for another season of just nonstop action in the Cascade, and I can't wait to get into it. Going to start like we did every other episode. Last season's way too early tiers for me. Contenders: Southern Oregon, Oregon Tech, Lewis-Clarke State. Hit the nail on the head, I feel like, with those roughly. Again, I know not only team that finished top 3 out of those 3 was Lewis-Clarke State, but Southern Oregon was a 6th seed, Oregon Tech was a 5th seed, and to be honest with y'all, if y'all follow along last year, the Cascade was separated by maybe a half game between 1 and 6, so I feel like I was pretty on the nose there. Maybe a technicality thanks to the Cascade, but I appreciate y'all in the Cascade. Playoff locks. Eastern Oregon College of Idaho Northwest. Missed the nail there on Northwest. Actually, no, I didn't. I apologize. I thought Northwest was the 9th seed. They were the 8th seed. So I did have nail on the head for all of those 3. Eastern Oregon obviously finished 2nd. College of Idaho finished 4th. And Northwest, like I mentioned, finished 8th. Bushnell, Walla Walla, Corban with my at the doors. Completely whiffed on Corban. My bad. It's on me, y'all. I was not familiar with your game. I apologize for that. In all seriousness, obviously a great season for them. Finished number 1 in the Cascade. Bushnell just missed out the postseason with the 9th seed, and Walla Walla was the 10th seed. And that leaves Evergreen and Warner Pacific. I missed the nail on Warner Pacific. You guys finished at the 7th seed, so congratulations on that. And then Evergreen was the final team in the Cascade. Hop right into with our first Predator team, Eastern Oregon. Co-regular season champions last year, lost in the semifinals and lost in the first round of the national tournament. A lot of returners in this group. Callie Cass, Haley Johnson, Rainey Niemeyer, 9, 7, and 6 points per game respectively. All of them shooting very efficient from the field, at the lowest being 33%, and that is Niemeyer, the highest being Johnson at 52% from the field. All of them are going to be very, very vital pieces. But you're losing a lot as well. Kelsey Singer, Maggie Smith, Kia Wawi. This is going to be a tough season for Eastern Oregon. That was my initial thought process. But then, my first storyline here for them, retooled. I think they have the best recruiting class in the Cascade. I'm going to say right now, and I haven't even gotten to any other team yet in the Cascade, I believe they have the best recruiting class in the Cascade. I do. Found these ladies' information going through social media and going through all these different things. Emily Peabody, JUCO transfer. Hadley Fries, JUCO transfer. Brittany Phillips, JUCO transfer. And Abby Liebel, JUCO transfer. 21 points per game for Emily, 13 for Hadley, 17 for Brittany, and a nice 9 for Abby. I believe this is the best recruiting class in the Cascade right now. I do. I think that they went out, retooled. I would argue today, when I'm recording this and when y'all are watching this, I do believe this team on paper is prepared or should be pegged to be better than the Eastern Oregon team that we saw last year. And that's saying something, because that Eastern Oregon team was legit. They were, again, co-regular season champions with Corban for a reason. I believe this team actually on paper is better. Now, they got to put it out all together on the court. They got to be able to bring it all together in the system. But I believe this team is better than what Eastern Oregon had last year. No knock to the Eastern Oregon team from last year, but it's more of a compliment for what Coach was able to do and go out and create a new, just very exciting team that I cannot wait to see out there on the court. Yeah, no defensive leader, though. Kelsey Singer is gone. She was the Defensive Player of the Year, if I remember correctly, in the Cascade. How do we make up for that? Again, y'all know me. I'm big on defense. Defense is what's going to win championships. You're national champions for the past 3 years. Dort for the first two, and then for Marion, defensive teams that would identify as a defensive team, while they were great offensively, of course. But defense was the number one thing. Who is going to step in as that defensive leader now that Kelsey is gone? And again, it don't got to be one of your best players. We would love it if it is, but someone has to come in and be that calming presence on the defensive side of the ball. Offense, this team is not going to struggle on offense. They're going to figure it out one way or another. They have too many weapons, and too many possibilities to not. But defense is what's going to be the final thing that pushes them over the edge of being not just Cascade Conference champion contenders, but national tournament contenders. I truly believe this team's got some great upside if it all comes together. But I'm going to be looking at the defense most of all. This is the team to beat. This is the team to beat, and this may be the team to beat for the next 2 years. I know I'm jumping ahead here, but we're talking about JUCO transfers that have, again, as far as I know, at least 2 years of eligibility left. So you've got a pretty decent returning group coming back. You've got a very solid JUCO class that's coming in. I don't see why this team can't be a 2-year window right now of being the best team in the Cascade on paper, and they are the team to beat. That's my biggest thing. I think this team is a team to beat. I really, really do. I think they check every box. I think they've gone out and, again, somehow created a better team on paper. Now it's just a matter of putting it all together. I think that's all you would want as a coach. If you're a college coach at any level, or a coach period at any level, when the offseason comes, your focus is go out and try to build a better team than you had the year before, obviously. If you do that, now it's on you as a coach and as a staff to put it all together. What did we see at the time in the summer, at the time during the offseason that we think we can put with these specific players? I think they completed the first step. You went out and I think this is a better team than last year. And I've said it a lot, but because I just cannot emphasize it enough. My gut is telling me this team is going to be better, but it just has to all come together. There'll be some rocky starts, or some rocky bumps, I should say. Some slow starts, maybe. Some, rough patches. It's a long season. We get that. But I think when the moment is right, they will peak and they will be able to go off and do what I think they're going to do. The floor for me is a top 2 seed. And I'm being generous because I was really close to saying number 1 seed. Really close, but I'm going to give them a little bit of grace. I don't know how much grace I'm giving somebody if I'm just saying that your only margin of error is being a number 2 seed and one of the best conferences in the NAIA. But hey, that's what I just did. The ceiling for this team is an Elite 8 appearance, and I am underselling that. I think this team's got at least a Fab 4 finals appearance type of ceiling right now. But we are in June. Well, I'm in June. Y'all are in August. So we're going to give it a little bit of but if you find me on the streets, don't be surprised if I say, no, I changed my mind. I'm going Fab 4, or no, I'm going national tournament type of team. This team can have the potential to do that. They do. I got to see it all come together to be a little more confident in it. But on paper, they check a lot of boxes, and I just cannot just explain how excited I am to watch this team, even if it means I got to stay up way later than I should to watch some of these games, because I just got to see it. I got to see it, especially when Cascade play starts. Ooh, man, I cannot wait to see it. Cannot wait to see it. Heading over now to our next team, College of Idaho. College of Idaho finished 4th in the Cascade, lost in the quarterfinals, lost in the round of 32 in the national tournament. As far as major losses go, we'll start there. Mia Austin and Tyron Riley, 7 points per game, 2 rebounds, 37% from the field, 38 from 3 for Maya, and then for Riley was 6 points, 2 rebounds, and 38% from the field. But you're returning a very, very, very great group here. Kylie Waltmeyer, Anna Mooney, Brooke Bresford, Riley Beck, Maya Hardy. 12 points, 9 points, 8 points, 7 points, 7 points. All of them at least 3 or more rebounds. All of them shooting over 35% from the field, to be honest with you. This team is my biggest jump potential team. This is my biggest jump potential team in the Cascade. Almost you're returning your entire group, I would say, to be honest with you guys. All your top scorers are coming back, as well as some complementary pieces, some very, very good role players in your rotation. That team was already hovering around all the major stats that you need to feel confident in saying this is a championship level team. This is my biggest jump potential team. I think they have the most upside out of anybody here, while having probably the safest floor out of anybody in the Cascade. My next thing is, are we looking at a best duo, best trio, or best 5-player lineup? I think this team has the potential of going that deep. I think this team has the potential of having the best 5 people out there at any given time throughout a season. Not from a talent standpoint. Because again, in my opinion, I think Eastern Oregon, who we just talked about, they have more talent. From that standpoint, I would give it to Eastern Oregon. But what I'm talking about with College of Idaho is that chemistry, that cohesiveness, that we've done this before already. We figured it out. A College of Idaho that had some big wins last year, that made a little bit of a run at the end of the season to get to the national tournament, to get past the first round. I think this team has the highest jump potential because when push comes to shove, y'all know how I feel about it. At 38 minutes, things might go the way you're supposed to go. But for 2 minutes, the end of close games, I will always trust the team that is playing better. Emphasis on team. Yes, we all know basketball. We just saw it this past summer with the NBA Finals. Sometimes you need the best player. But sometimes you just need a team that is playing to their roles and playing it to a T. Use the NBA Finals as an example. A lot of people said the Knicks don't have the best player in the series. Maybe they don't. But as I've loved saying for the past couple weeks, everybody's better than Jalen Brunson until it's time to be better than Jalen Brunson. Everybody needs a Josh Hart on their team. Everybody needs an OG, a Cat, a Jose Alvarado. Like, they played their roles. And I believe College of Idaho is giving me that vibe. Not Knicks vibe, not NBA champion vibes, but a team that right now in the summer, we're working out small kinks. We're ironing out roles. We're understanding where we're going to get our shots from. What's our identity going to be? How are we going to play on offense? Do we want to play fast? Do we want to like all these different things are going to be talked about and worked on in the preseason. And I think because they've already done it a little bit already, it's all just a matter of bringing in the new pieces, expanding some roles for certain people. I think it's going to be easier turnarounds to get it into the fall, into the spring. I'm looking at Kylie and Anna as being my leaders offensively. 12 points per game for Kylie, 6 rebounds, 48% from the field, 41% from three-point line. Anna thinks she's going to cross that 10-point mark this year. She was at 9 last year. 3 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, 37% from the field, 36% from three-point line. Those are your dynamic duos offensively. I think a lot of the touches, a lot of the offense will run through them. They will be getting a lot of looks throughout the game. Now, I see a Player of the Year campaign possibly here for Kylie. I really, really do. I think her scoring is going to go up a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if she starts flirting with 15 a night. You know, maybe every now and then she throws in a little 20 ball in there. And if she goes on a little bit of a streak here where she puts up some consistent numbers, I think it comes down to just wins. If College of Idaho gets a second seed and she's putting up these numbers that I think she can't put up, I think she's got to have at least a seat at the table. I think she's got to really be a contender here, maybe even finalist type of thing. What I'm looking for in terms of trio, Kylie, Anna, and Brooke being 8 points per game, 6 rebounds, 40% from the field. I think those 3 ladies would be what I'm talking about. I said best duo? Possibly. Could you have the best trio? Possibly. Or could you have the best starting 5? That's also a possibility. That's what I mean by if these 3 ladies do what they're supposed to do, it allows the rest of the team to feel comfortable in their role and feel comfortable. And this is what I have to do because we have maybe the 3 best players collectively out of anybody in the conference at any given time. We're fine. I think all 3 of those ladies are going to get all conference nods. I think they should get all conference nods. I think all 3 of them are going to get over 10 points per game. That's a very, very, very hard thing to beat in the Cascade. I don't know how many of these teams, because remember what I talked about earlier, the Cascade to me is going to be a conference where we're having recruiting classes, i.e. Eastern Oregon, for example, playing against some returning groups, i.e. College of Idaho, and seeing new talent that's trying to figure it out versus talent that's already figured it out but trying to just elevate their game a little bit more. I'm interested to see which, on any given night, one or the other could be able to come out on top. Who comes out on top more is going to be the biggest question. The other part that I really love about this team, most physical team in the conference, not the craziest thing to say. Biggest rebound margin in the conference, second in blocks, and best in opponents' assists. What I mean by that is, and y'all know I've been I don't know how many people talk about opponents' assists like the way I do, but the way I see that is you make sure that your defense is so just constricting and forces no continuity, no ball movement, that you're forcing opponents' offensive to create by themselves. Some teams can do that. Some players can do that. Not everybody can. And at the end of the day, y'all know how everybody wants to play basketball, move the ball, everybody touches it, this and that. That's what everybody wants to do, but you got to be able to handle pressure to do that. And I think this team does a very, very good job at just cutting up your offense and forcing it to be so stagnant, forcing it to not to flow, even if the ball is moving, but if you notice it, everybody's got to take 2 dribbles to get open and make a pass. Not even, because that's what I'm talking about. I'm not even talking about a moment where one-on-one to get to a bucket. That's the surface level stuff. What I'm talking about is I get the pass, instead of swinging it to the one more on the weak side, which would now put the defense in a blender, and now we're scrambling out to everybody. Instead, because the closeout was so strong, or because she was able to get back to the ball so quickly, I got to take an extra second or 2 to get open again to make the pass. At that point, now that open shot is not there anymore. That attack on the closeout is not as great as it probably could have been. So now we have to do it all over again. It is now 15 on the shot clock. We got to figure out something to put up that's somewhat good. And I think College of Idaho did that a lot last year. I think they're going to do that even better this year. And it goes back to what I said. Highest potential jump. I see this team from a 4 seed to a 3 seed. Yes, that doesn't seem like a high jump. But I always felt last year when it came to College of Idaho, I told y'all at the beginning of the year, I didn't see them as a true contender. I saw them as one of those teams that would be in the playoffs, maybe make a run at it, but nothing more. That's what ended up happening. They got into the postseason as a 4 seed, very solid. Quarterfinals, they put up a great fight, and they got a win in that tournament. Some teams didn't even get there, let alone get a win there. But this year, this team gives me a different vibe. And because I expect the Cascade to be as close as it was last year, being the third seed is massive. It is important because now you will be on the opposite bracket of the number 1 seed. And you probably were not that far off from being a 1 seed, let alone a 2 seed, right? I always felt like there was a little bit, Corban, Eastern Oregon, Lewis-Clarke State, to me, always felt like there was a little, I know statistically or by the records, it wasn't a gap, but there felt something else was there. Something else was there between those teams. College of Idaho, Oregon State, Southern Oregon, they could beat any of those teams. Like, none of those top 3 teams I said were unbeatable, but it always felt like it was going to be one of those 3 teams. This year, I think College of Idaho is firmly as a contender. Like, that's why they're a predator, and that's why they're high on my predator list, to be honest. I think this team has so much potential. Top 3 seed is for sure the floor. That's the floor. And we don't even talk about the Cascade playoffs, because I think the ceiling could be the finals, but I also wouldn't be surprised if that happens, not easily, obviously, but I wouldn't be surprised if you argue with me and say that that's the floor for them to just get there, not even win it, but just get there. I wouldn't be mad at y'all. I think this College of Idaho team is going to be nasty this year. As far as the national tournament, Sweet 16. Think this team will get a national tournament bid. I think I'm looking at a Sweet 16 here for the College of Idaho Yotes. Keep an eye on this team because this team's got not just high potential in the Cascade, but outside of the Cascade as well. Next team, Lewis-Clarke State. Finished 3rd in the Cascade, lost in the championship game, lost in the Sweet 16 of the national tournament. Major returners. This is another team where I'm looking at the returning group. Darian Herring, 12 points per game, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 47% from the field. Kendall Wallace, 11 points, 2 rebounds, 45% from the field, 41% from the three-point line. Tatum Bragger, 7 points, 8 rebound, 35% from the field, and 34% from the three-point line. Now, you are losing Citra Bird, Peyton Himes, and Lindsey Wilson. Massive losses, in my opinion. I think you could argue that this might be the team that maybe has the most losses out of anybody in the Cascade, because I'm looking around and I just don't think this team really has I don't know if this team, if there's a team that's losing as much as they are, in my opinion. In my opinion, I just don't know if that's the case, because from a scoring standpoint, from a production standpoint, from a playmaking standpoint, efficiency, like everything you would need, I think they're losing. And remember, when I say these things, it's in the context of the conference, not everything, not in a vacuum. I'm not saying that Lewis-Clarke State is losing the most in the country. No, I wouldn't say that about anybody, because I'm not focused on the country right now. I'm focusing on each conference. Within this conference, I think they're losing a lot, but it's not like it's a gap. It's just the Cascade is it's a conference of margins. That's how close it was last year. That's how close it's going to be this year. We start with Darian Herring in her senior year. I think she's got to be able to lead the team on both sides of the ball. Player of the Year campaign, Defensive Player of the Year campaign, I think it's got to all be there. The rebound is the biggest thing for me. I think she's got to be able to compensate for a little bit of what might be a tough year for rebounding. Y'all know how I feel about rebounding. Y'all don't got to be amazing at rebounding, but y'all can't get out rebounded by 10 plus rebounds every night. Yes, she put up 9 rebounds a night last year. But you're losing somebody in Bird who put up 7 rebounds a night. You're losing somebody in Wilson who put up 5 rebounds a night. And you're losing somebody in Payne who put up 2 rebounds a night, which might not seem like a lot, but when you add them all together, it's pretty tough blows to your rebounding average for the season. I think she's got to average a double-double. If Darian's not averaging a double-double throughout the year, I think something's up. Respectfully. You averaged 9 rebounds last year. I think 10 is completely fair game, and I think that should be the expectations for her coaches. I think that's a completely fair thing to expect from her. Wallace, I need more rebounds. Tatum, same thing. I need more rebounds. The team as a whole, I think rebounding is going to be the focus. I think that's what a lot of the coaches are going to talk about throughout the preseason, throughout the regular season, postseason, all of it. Rebounding. We cannot get out-rebounded by, again, I know how I feel. Keep it within 5, one way or another, whether you're winning or losing, but by 5, I think you'll be fine. Anything more than 5, we're getting into dicey territory the farther away we get from that number. Depth. Depth's the next thing. Talked about, I feel like they might be losing the most. Might be taking the biggest hit. That's literally my next line. I can combine these two storylines between depth and taking the next biggest hit, because you're losing 2 out of your 4 top 10 plus per game scores. Kendall probably is going to go from option 4 to option 2. Now, again, I I was not privy to any information on who they're bringing in. They could be bringing somebody in that can help in the offensive load, and I'm sure they will. But you still got to integrate that person into the system. So there's a level of unknown if that will happen. So I'm going off what I know. Who's option 3 going to be? Is it going to be Tatum? Is it going to be somebody else? Is it going to be? So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered here that you obviously will take the preseason to figure them out. But you still have to understand that when I say what I say, it's mainly because I'm going to err on the side of unknown, meaning probably not. Probably not, right? The reason I'm talking so much about the hits is because offensively, last year this team was 3rd in field goal percentage in the conference, 2nd in three-point percentage in the conference, tied for 5th off free throw percentage. Could be a little bit better, but 70% is not bad. And 2nd in points per game at 76 a night. Defensively, number 1 in steals, 2nd in opponents' turnovers, 3rd in blocks. This was an elite team last year. A legit team. You don't make it to the Sweet 16 on accident. You are taking the biggest hit. At the same time, this would be my team that can shock you if you don't respect them because they're still returning. Herring, I expect jumps from Wallace and Tatum. I know the staff is going to bring in a very, very good recruiting group. This is another team where recruiting is going to be the name of the game. I think this team can be a top 4 seed. I think that's a safe assumption to make. I think the recruiting class will determine how much higher or lower. But I think top 4 seed is what I'm looking at here for this team. Semifinals, round of 32. Big because I don't know. I just don't know. It's not that I don't expect them to get back to at least what they did last year in the Sweet 16, but I can't say that because I just don't know. And I don't have when I project with some of these teams, I have a better understanding of things. I can project a little more than Eastern Oregon because I know who's coming in. I at least have seen their numbers. I can see it. I can visualize it. I can't visualize anything right now for this Lewis-Clarke State team, but I also think that's what makes them a little scary. Some coaches want to keep it hush-hush until the season starts, and I respect that because element of surprise is a real factor in some of these games, especially early on in the season if you can pick up some nice non-con games and put them under your belt for that RPI. Oregon Tech, 5th in the conference last year. Semifinals loss, round of 64 loss. Major returners: Tatum Schmarbach, Josie Ramos, Brooke Anderson, Avery Andrews, Kendall Freely, Aliyah Marston. Major loss, 1 loss, but major loss. Olivia Sprague, 13 points per game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 38% from the field. This is a team that's on the margins from a recruiting class standpoint. Whoever they bring in, it don't gotta change anything. It don't have to be a needle mover at all. It just gotta be a little tap to one side. That's all it's gotta be. They may have the best returning group. I would argue that. I would definitely argue it. I think they're up there in conversations with some of these other teams at College of Idaho. I think this Oregon Tech team checks the box that College of Idaho does from a continuity standpoint, and it also checks the talent standpoint. So I think you can make an argument for Oregon Tech here. My first storyline, defensive interior presence. 1st in blocks, top 3 rebounding. Can they replicate that? If they replicate that, let's roll with these Owls. Let's do it. This team had some really good wins in non-con last year. They obviously made a little bit of a run at the end of the season to make themselves more viable. I think this team picked up some great wins last year in the Cascade that really helped keep them where they were, especially in that middle of the pack of everything that was going on in the Cascade. If they keep their defensive tier in presence, which I think they will, maybe not number 1 in blocks, but I think top 3 rebounding is for sure a safe assumption to make. And I think if you're hovering around the number 1 in blocks, I think they will get it, to be honest, because you got Tatum who put up a block a game. You got Josie who put up a block a game. You had Kendall who put up a block a game. I think it's fine. I think it's too hard for this team not to get blocks, at least 1 per game. So I think this team is going to be a very, very tough team to score on in the interior. Therefore, putting more pressure on the offense, because people don't understand a lot of times. Having an interior presence is not just, I want to block shots. Yeah, cool, that's awesome. But the point of that is it makes the other team's offense feel more pressure when taking shots. Because it's one thing if you're shooting jumpers, but you know you can get to the rim if need be. Not at will per se, but it's a possibility. Like you're able to get into the paint, you're able to create off the bounce to get something around the rim. But if you have an interior presence like they did last year, the other team knows that. And not saying coaches are going to say we got to live or die by the jumper, but subconsciously you start thinking about that. Because now when you take this jumper, in the back of your mind, you know, like, we're not going to get a lot of layups, a lot of clean looks in the paint. We're not going to get a lot of offensive rebounds. We're not going to get a lot of these things around the rim that maybe we got in other games. So now it puts a little bit of extra pressure on these shots from the perimeter and, might cause a few more misses. So there's a lot that goes into having an interior presence for this team that I think would help them in the long term, not just having the best interior defense in the conference. Next level offense, number 3 in points per game, number 5 in opponents' points per game. One of 4 teams that were top 5 in both offense and defense. I think that has to replicate again. I think it will replicate again. But I want that points per game to go up. They were the worst points per game, 3rd, and 3-point field goal percentage, 8th, in that combo from last year. So we were talking about points per game and 3-point percentage, and you combine them, they were the worst out of that combo. Meaning that the other teams, if you were top, number 1, maybe you were 5th. If you were 2, you were 4th. Stuff like that. 3rd to 8th. So you got the 3rd most points in the Cascade last year. And you were one of the bottom teams in the bottom half of the conference in 3-point percentage. So imagine if you get just up to average in the conference, around that 6-5 mark. Now we're talking about maybe the number 1 offense in the conference. And those points could matter. Only 2 players who attempted over 30 field goal attempts from the 3-point line from last year and shot over 30%. That's Brooke and Chelsea Ching. Brooke's coming back this year. Only played in 12 games, none in the spring semester. Assuming she's coming back, obviously. I think she'll have a big role in terms of the spacing for this team, the 3-point percentage spacing. Again, she's coming back. You're looking at Chelsea maybe coming off that bench. Could have a possibility of, again, finding a role there as a floor spacer. But I do believe if they can unlock that 3-ball percentage a little bit more, this offense might be something to be reckoned with. And now you've got a really, really good defense inside and out. And you've got an offense that can go inside and out. You're checking too many boxes now. Checking a lot of boxes. The last thing I look at this team with, could they have the best duo in the conference? That duo being Tatum and Josie. Again, Tatum, 19, 7, 5, a block, a steal, 50% from the field. Josie, 11, 7, 1 block, 46% from the field. They may be the best duo because they may be the best two-way talented duo in the conference. The two-way ability is elite. I put it up against anybody in the Cascade. Anybody. And we've seen plenty of plays of just that. So I gotta throw that out there, and I think we're looking at it. We're looking at possibly player of the year in Tatum, an all-conference defensive player of the year type of season for Josie. I see it, y'all. I could see it. At the same breath, keep an eye. I mentioned Brooke, also in Avery. I think, 8 points per game, 5 rebounds, 55% from the field last year. Has to do a little bit more offensively probably this year. So don't be surprised if she kind of explodes, maybe has a little all-conference, conversation type of season. I'm here for it. My predictions for this team. Top 4 seed, finals appearance in the Cascade. Fair assumption. I think we can all agree with that. As far as it goes for the national tournament, I was torn between the round of 32, Sweet 16. I'm going to go Sweet 16. I think this team can get to the final site. I think this team can get there. I almost want to say Elite 8, to be honest with y'all. But I'm going to sit in the middle and say Sweet 16. And from there, we'll see what happens. But I do believe a lot of it is going to come off those 2 ladies I talked about. And who else, or can the rest of the offense really enter that next level of being elite on both sides of the ball? I think they were great last year offensively. I don't know if they were elite all the time. Sometimes, but not all the time. They were elite defensively all the time, in my opinion. You bring up that offense because that's what it takes to be, again, your last 2 national championship teams. Elite defense and elite offense most nights. Not every night. Dort had its hiccups. Marion had their hiccups. But they were elite majority of the time. Number 5, Southern Oregon Raiders. 6 in the Cascade, lost in the quarterfinals, lost in the round of 64. Major returners, Sage Wilson, 9 points per game, 5 rebounds, 33% from the field. Lyda Traore, 7 points, 6 rebounds, 50% from the field. And then Keely Wright, 6 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 35% from the field. Major losses, Bridget McIntyre, huge loss. Goes without saying, but huge loss. 15 points per game, shot 39% from the field, 36% from three-point line, and 95% from the free throw line. And then Eliza De Giulio, 12 points per game, 4 rebounds, 44% from the field, 42 from 3, and 83 from the free throw line. You're losing a lot of offense, clearly. They do have two major additions that I think are going to be very, very, very interesting. Ida Walker, a Division II transfer, 3 years, but first 2 years, 15 minutes, over 15 games. 8 points per game, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 43% from the field, 30% from the three-point line. I think she's a perfect complementary piece coming into this team. I think she definitely can fit a need of depth, of ball handling, of scoring, of shooting. I think that's the biggest thing that we can talk about with the Southern Oregon team. They can shoot the ball. They shot the ball very well. Sometimes it didn't help them, but they know that if they get high, they got to see if you go in, it's going to be a different night for them. I watched a lot of Southern Oregon games last year, and I noticed that. Sometimes it's going, sometimes it's not. But if it's not going, it don't mean they can't win, but it just means it might be a little bit harder. But if it's going, it's hard for them not to win basketball games. But the main player I'm kind of excited for, Madeline Young, JUCO transfer. Freshman year, 11 points, 49% from the field, 42% from the three-point line, 4 rebounds. It was her freshman year. Her sophomore year, this past season, 18 points per game, 48% from the field, 37% from the three-point line, 5 rebounds per game. The numbers went up. The efficiency stayed about the same. Again, three-pointers went down by 5 percentage points, but three-pointers can be a little bit misleading. I'm more concerned about the field goal percentage. Her field goal percentage only went down by 1. And as far as I'm concerned, that's been keeping it the same. More minutes, more role, more responsibility. No real dip in the scoring. No dip in the scoring, obviously, went up. And no dip in the other areas of efficiency. Minutes went up from 26 to 30, so she went up 4 minutes. She's playing pretty much 3 quarters now. Field goal attempts per game went up from 8 to 14, so you almost doubled that. And again, the efficiency did not really take a hit, as maybe it could have. And then 3-point field goal attempts went up from 4 to 6. Again, 2 extra shot at nights. You pretty much went 1 for 2 on those extra 2 you took every night. Not bad. It's 50%. It's not bad. She might be my newcomer of the year in the Cascade. Not 100% sure if the Cascade actually does that award, but for me specifically, I feel like she could make the biggest impact. She might create this Southern Oregon team to go from, 5th seed, middle of the pack to, hey, they've jumped up to the 3rd seed, right? I think it might be the biggest, I just mentioned, might be the biggest transfer coming into the conference. You're losing Bridget, you're losing Eliza. She literally, she being young, literally can fit perfectly into that role of being probably your number 1 option. Probably the offense runs a lot through her. Or she's getting a lot of looks. She's getting the most touches, most field goal attempts. I think that's going to be her role this year. And I don't see that being an issue, to be honest. She's a bucket getter. 3-level scorer, in my opinion. It also gives Sage and Lydia time to really step into their own. Again, they're still young in their careers here at Southern Oregon. They still have another year, some time to really find themselves. They put up 9 points and 6 and 8 points respectively, playing next to players like Bridget and Eliza who were comfortable and could handle the bulk of the scoring and the bulk of the offense. Now you put her next to somebody who can also do that, but now it's only 1. So you're still expecting some uptick from those 2 ladies, which I think you're going to get. I think Sage will cross 10 points per game. I think Lydia, I don't know if she crosses 10 points per game going from 6 to 10, but I think she gets closer. Maybe she takes the spot of Sage, where Sage is at around 9 and hovering around that 10-point mark. And it also keeps Keely being the heartbeat of this team. I think Keely is the heart and soul of this team, in my opinion. Watch the games, and at least the games that I watched for Southern Oregon last year, the amount of times I've heard her name was way more than anybody else on either team. To be fair, I think a lot of those games were Southern Oregon games, but were home games for Southern Oregon, I should say. But still, I stand by my statement. Every time I'm doing something else or I'm taking my eyes off the screen for a moment, all I hear is Keely right, Keely right, Keely right, Keely right. Now, the times that I did look at the screen, barely saw her because she was moving so fast. So that's the other part of this too. I think she is going to be the most important impact player. She might not be the best player on this team, but she might be the most influential, impactful on this team. And now that you have somebody like Young who can shoulder a lot of offensive responsibilities, Again, Sage and Lydia will do that as well. You don't need Keely to turn into a 10-point per game scorer. I just don't think that's going to be her game. I don't think that fits her. I think she's a lot more impactful being your Swiss Army knife kid. It can do a little bit of everything. 6 points per game is still very, very good. 4 rebounds is solid. 4 assists, solid. 2 steals, solid on an efficient 35% from the field. On, again, low attempts. I think that's a perfect role for her. Perfect role for her. And I'm sure Southern Oregon fans, coaches, players understand how vital she is to the success of this team. Freshman improvement. Again, Sage, Lydia. I think we're looking at maybe all conference seasons from these two ladies. There's an argument to at least one. I would put money on one. I don't know about both. Kind of comes down to wins, but I think one. Perimeter defense is the other part that I'm looking at. The team had 11 players with 10-plus steals last season. 9 with 15-plus, 6 with 20-plus, 4 with 35-plus, 3 with 40-plus, and then 2 players last year had 60-plus steals. Now again, not average, the total. So total, 9 players finished the season with at least 15 or more steals, and 2 of those 9 players finished with 60 or more steals. All 11 averaged at least a steal a game, with 2 of them averaging 2 per game. This team was second in the conference in steals, first in opponents' turnovers, obviously, and had generated 20 points off those turnovers. I talked about Oregon Tech having the best interior presence. I would argue that Southern Oregon has the best perimeter presence. If that perimeter defense continues, they're going to be just fine. I'm looking at the offense. Both of these two teams that we just talked about, defensively, I think they are the best 2 teams in the respective zones of defense. Again, perimeter and interior. I think on paper, going off last year, I think it's a safe bet to make. I think Southern Oregon just has too much speed, too much active hands, too much switchability on the perimeter. The thing now comes, can you replicate that again? If you do, let's roll. I think the players that were the biggest reasons for that are still there. Bridget and Eliza were not defensive liabilities, though, so understand that's going to be a tough hit for sure defensively. But how do the rest of the team kind of compensate for that is going to be the biggest thing. The floor, top 4 seed, semifinals appearance. It's a top 4 seed for 5 teams. One of these 5 teams will not be the top 4, but that's okay. I think being the 5th seed in the Cascade might as well be the top 4 seed in any other conference, respectively. Ceiling, a Cascade title, or a Sweet 16 appearance, or both. I can see them doing both. The Predators took a bulk of the episode, not going to lie to you guys. The next team that I really want to deep dive into is Corban, our only Hunters team of this conference. Co-regular season champions, Cascade tournament champions, lost around 64. I know it's crazy for me to say that the co-regular season champions and the tournament champions are Hunters and not Predators. When I've been there before with Langston. We'll get to you guys in Langston in a moment, in a couple episodes. But I know I've been here before. But my thing is, I just don't know if that Cascade tournament run was this team, or if what I saw in the first round of the national tournament is this team. They picked up Jersey Ureta last year. Huge pickup. Exactly what they were looking for. Exactly what they needed. And she delivered in every sense of the word. 19 points per game. 5 rebounds. 4 assists. A steal. 50% from the field. 33% from three-point line. She was amazing. Jenna Albrecht. 14. 4 rebounds. 50%. 42% from 3. And then Tyler Yost. 9 points. 5 rebounds. 41%. 30% from the three-point line. Those 3 ladies are coming back. I love it. I love it. Now you're losing Maddie Jensen, 7 points per game. Emily Bishop, 12 points per game with 8 rebounds. Very important note there. And then Tori Yoker, 9 points per game, 4 rebounds, 39% from the field, 31% from three-point line. My storyline with this team, first one's redemption. I just mentioned it. Amazing in conference, amazing in conference postseason play. They were the biggest upset in the NAIA tournament last year. The 14-seeded Jags from Texas A&M San Antonio upset them as the 3 seed. So the 14-3 was the largest upset in the national tournament last year. I think there's a redemption that's got to be had. And that's where I'm looking at. Because at the end of the day, the last thing I remember from this team is them losing to the Jaguars. I watched that game. Do I think it was more of a Jaguars win or a Corban loss? I think it was a Jaguars win. I think the Jaguars played amazing that game. They deserved to win that game. It was way too close down the stretch, and y'all know how I feel about these games with a clear favorite. If it stays close, give me the underdog every single time. With that being said, that's the last image I have of this team. So I kind of have to go off of that. But I also know if you force me to pick, are they closer to being predators or closer to being trappers? I would say predators. Like, I'm not saying the gap between them and the predators is a canyon, but I do think there's a gap. That gap can be erased within the first couple weeks of the season, to be honest. I'm not really confident in standing on this take, but I feel like it is an appropriate take given the time that we're talking about right now. Because, again, the last thing I saw from this team was getting upset in that tournament. Now, it's not the end of the world to get upset in that tournament. Happens to everybody. Happens to a lot of teams, a lot of elite teams get upset. Last year, it happened a lot. So, it's not the end of the world, but that's where I'm coming from when I say this. The all-conference duo got to be leaders again. Jersey and Jenna, double J's. I think they're going to have another all-conference season. I think they're going to be the leaders of this team. They got to be the leaders of this team. I would love to see take the next step. Jersey, 20 points per game. I'm not asking for a lot, but we got to continue to elevate the game, or we get a little more well-rounded around. Maybe confidently say where she's averaging 15, 5, and 5. That would be amazing. I don't know how much better shooting you can get than 50% from the field. And I mean, 3-point percentage can always go up. You're at 33 right now. Give me 35. That'd be great. But again, a lot of these things are just if she had the same exact numbers she had this year coming into this season, she's going to be fine. She'll have a great season. She'll have an all-conference season. It's fine. It's more of if they want to get to the next level, she's got to still continue to push herself and get to that next level. Jenna, I think there's a little bit more of an improvement to be had there. I think she can cross 15 points per game. I think that's going to be completely within the realm of possibility. So I do believe that when I say improvement, from a leadership standpoint, I would give a little more to Jersey. From a playing and number standpoint, I look at Jenna, but it's really just like one point per game. So, I mean, how much improvement can you really ask for? But those 1 points per game, that could be the difference a lot of times in these games, especially when we're talking about national tournament games, which is what this team is still looking for, and rightfully so. Offensive depth issue is something else that I'm going to be looking at for this team. That was their biggest strength last season. I talked about it right there. Yeah, Jersey at 18, Jenna at 14, Taylor, at 8, Maddie at 6, Emily at 11, Tori at 9. Everybody had at least 5 points or more. You're losing half of that. And that's gonna hurt. So, and this is another season now. Or there's already film, I should say, on Jersey, on Jenna, on Taylor. So who else is going to step up? Who else is going to come in and be that one when they blitz the ball screen, when they're taking certain people away, when they're making their lives hard? Who's going to be the one to step up and make those shots and alleviate some pressure from the main scoring options on this team? I'm looking at Taylor for sure. Number 1 3-point percentage last year. Number 2 in field goal percentage, number 1 in points per game. The team, I should have prefaced that. I know I said Taylor. I do believe I'm looking at her. I think she can get 10 points per game. That'd be amazing for this team. From again, alleviating some pressure offensively, that'd be great. But the numbers I was just talking about was for the team. Number 1 in 3-point percentage, number 2 in field goal percentage, number 1 in points per game at 80. That's an elite offense. Y'all know how I feel about it. If you're below 60, you're not a good offense, respectfully. 60 to 64. Below average, 65 to about 68, 69. You're an average offense. 70 to 75, 4. It's a great offense. 70 to 72. It's above average offense. 73 to about 77, 78. That's a great offense. And then 79 and above, you're an elite offense. It's a done deal. This is an elite offense. It was a lead offense. Can they replicate that again? We'll see. We will see. But I think the reason for that would be, again, offensive depth comes in from a recruiting standpoint, from an in-house standpoint. That's what I'm looking at for this team. Their ceiling is a top 5 seed. Or their floor, top 5 seed. Again, one of the teams I just talked about will be a 5th seed, I feel like. So there's a world where this team is a 6th seed. Now, if one of those teams I talked about in the Predators is a 6th seed, I don't think that's a good season. Respectfully. I think it's a good season. If anything should happen, the 5 teams I just talked about should be a 1 through 5 in some order. I think Corban would be the 6th seed as it stands today. I could be wrong. And like I said, the gap between Corban and the other 5 teams I just talked about is not a gap. It's not even big enough to say the word gap, if I'm being honest. It's a crevice. It's a nook. It's a cranny. But it's still there. And I want to talk about it. The ceiling, semifinals appearance, I think is completely within the realm of possibility. Again, I got to see this offense. It's the only thing I got to say. And then opening rounds. I think that's a safe assumption to make. Again, considering last year you guys got there. It's a really good seed, favorable matchup in the first round, and just didn't go your way. So I think it's a safe assumption to make. The rest of the conference, similar to last year, I do believe there is a significant difference between the 6 teams I just talked about and the rest of this conference. With that being said, there are some teams that I'm kind of excited about to talk about. We're going to actually start with the growers of this conference. I think the trappers have a little bit more to say. So when we look at the growers for this conference, we're looking at Walla Walla, and we're looking at Evergreen. For Walla Walla, the real storyline I'm looking at is it's year 2 for Coach Stone. A full recruiting class season, full off season. I think that's going to be big. Well, for me, the way I kind of judge, or the way I've always thought the best way to judge a new coach, whether it's a first-time head coach, whether it's a coach who's done this before, it goes your first year. It doesn't matter. It does depend when you get hired, but we're gonna say you get hired within the springtime, stuff like that. You're given a grace period. No matter if you're hired in the spring or in the summer, whatever, late hire, early hire, whatever, I think you're given a grace period because you're still probably going to have a little bit of a leftover from the previous regime, plus whoever you bring in, especially if you are a college coach already and you have some kids that are going to transfer with you. Year 2, that is the first year from your own recruiting standpoint. You've now had a year to kind of put your name out there as a program, put your name out there as a coach, as a staff, trying to find kids, that kind of stuff, hit back up your own ties and relationships with recruiting. That's year 2. Year 2, the pressure a little bit more. Plus, you get a full offseason, very important. Year 3 is where we start talking about, okay, winning is now a little more important. We should be steadily improving. If we were already a playoff team, let's see if we can make some deep runs. If we're already making deep runs against national tournaments, so on and so forth. Right? Again, within respect. I'm not saying that if you are already making national tournament runs, okay, go win a national championship in 3 years. No. But more so conference level success. If you've never been to the postseason in the previous 2 years, I think year 3 should be the time where we're talking about if things are going the right way. Again, this is a perfect scenario, which hardly ever happens, but this is how I kind of judge first, new coaches. Year 4 is where things start getting, all right, is this something that we can move forward with in terms of the program and that kind of stuff? Because in retrospect, if you get to 4 years, that first year you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, a senior year, things should be somewhat together. You understand your school, your institution, all these different things that would affect it. You know how to recruit, you know what to sell about the school, all those different type of things. You know who to talk to, you know who can help you. So year 2, biggest focus. This is your first full recruiting, full offseason. You get to focus on all those things that you feel like you maybe didn't have time to do in the first offseason because you had to worry about, getting to the job, finding a house, all these different other things that are part of the process. Second storyline, offensive depth. Bello in her junior year, major returner, probably the biggest returner for this team. J-Lo Bello, 20 points per game, 4 rebounds, 1 steal, 36% from the field, 27% from the three-point line. She is going to be the biggest focus for this team. It's not really a surprise there. She set the single season scoring record as a sophomore. She averaged 24 points per game in her last 10 games of the season. Be on the lookout for a really, really, really impressive junior year for her. After that, I'm looking at Brooklyn Coe, 11 points per game. I think she's going to have a really solid season as well. Allison Haslam, 9 points per game. Really good 3-headed monster there, offensively speaking. But the problem is after that, your next highest scorer was averaging 4 points per game. Got to find ways to get the rest of the offense included, just unlock the rest of the offense, really. And even if that means that these two ladies take a little bit of a dip in their scoring, it will help them in the long term to win basketball games, which is obviously what everybody wants to do. So that's what I'm going to be looking at. How can the offense be unlocked a little bit more to get everybody else moving and get everything else in kind of churning the right way? And then development period. Could be a sneaky Trappers team. This team could sneak into that Trappers. Maybe you're flirting with that 8th seed. I think the floor for me is 4 conference wins. I think that'd be a really, really, really good thing for West Walla Walla team. And the ceiling is obviously the playoffs. For Evergreen, finished last in the conference last year. I can talk a lot about them, but basically the focus is recruiting class, who you're bringing in, development, and just new chapter, like moving into this continued development for the program. I think the focus is win a conference game. Just win as many games as you can. Compete probably is a better way to say it. Get as many close games as possible. Get in as many close games as possible. Your focus should be being playoff spoilers, being seeding spoilers. That should be the focus for me. Ceiling is obviously the playoffs. If you get to the playoffs, that's a successful season easily. But I think the focus is recruiting class, development, and continuing to move in the forward direction of this program. For the Trappers, last 3 teams, Northwest finished 8th in the conference last year. Warner Pacific finished 7th. And we have Bushnell, who finished 9th. For Northwest, they lost in the quarterfinals, bringing back decent group. Kalia Medeiros, 13 points per game, 42% from the field, 39% from 3-point line, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Ellie Boast, 11 points. Ella Whitaker, 9 points. And Tamani Falfine Awi, 6 points per game. You're losing Jersey McGee, 9 points per game, and Ellie Deward, 6 points per game. So I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be able to find some pieces that can kind of compensate for that. And I think some people from in-house are going to develop a little bit more. My first storyline, this is my scary mid-pack team. This team, I don't know if I want to see them in the playoffs, respectfully. I don't, if they avoid that 8th seed and they get to that 7 or they sneak into that 6th seed, I don't want to see them in the first round, respectfully. I really don't. Talented players who can score the ball. They play well with each other. They were 3rd in field goal percentage last year, on 3-point percentage, on 27 attempts. So they can shoot the ball now. They get hot. They can get a little spicy. They take care of the ball very well. Number 3 in turnovers in terms of what they were keeping. I think this team is going to be very, very, very unfriendly to the top end of the conference. This is my possible spoiler pick of, depending on who they play, obviously matchups are be big here. But if I'm any of these teams I already talked about that are going to be at the top end of the conference, I don't want to see this team in the first round of the playoffs. I don't. I really don't. And even in the regular season, I don't want to have to battle a Corban and Eastern Oregon, and then I got to go Southern Oregon, and then all of a sudden you sneak in a Northwestern there, and I'm like, and you think it might be an easy game, and then all of a sudden it's on the road. Don't forget that. And now we're in a dogfight. Those are the games that I don't want to deal with. They might have also the most underrated duo. Kalia and Ellie, keep an eye on these two. I really think they're going to have a really good season. I think they're going to improve their scoring. I think they're going to flirt with 15 points per game each. And I'm talking about 30 points per game in that duo. And keep an eye on Ella. She was, again, 9 points per game, 47% from the field, 31% from the 3-point line, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. She was filling up the stat sheets. I think another year under her belt, another offseason under her belt, she might really be a surprise for a lot of people and could push this team to that ceiling. That floor could be pushed a little higher. She might be a floor raiser for this team, to be honest with you guys. Defensive improvement, though. I think that's the only reason they were the 8th seed. I think offensively, I've articulated that they can score the ball, but defensively, they got to get better. 3rd most opponents' points per game, 4th lowest in opponents' field goal percentage, and 3rd lowest in opponents' offensive rebounds. Got to be better in the defensive category. You do that, I think they get at least 6 wins, puts them in that 8th, 7th seed, maybe the 6th seed. The ceiling would be semifinals. Again, don't be surprised if this team sneaks in there, y'all. I'm not picking them to win the conference, but I might pick them in a one-off situation here. That's what the playoffs are. One-off. Warner Pacific, 7th in the Cascade, lost in the quarterfinals. This team is going to be fun because we got a new coach. This is going to be the start of the Peralt era. Jeffrey Peralt is a new head coach. He will also be a professor there. Focusing on the 3 Fs: firm, fair, and fun, and the acronym ROOTS. Respect rules, officials, opponents, teammates, and self. I think this team is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I always like watching first-year programs, learning for me, as well as just seeing how things are run. Laying the foundation, the system, the culture, development, recruiting class. He was hired in April, so it does give him a good window to recruit as far as the spring goes into the summer. So there's a possibility for there. And the biggest thing too is who stayed. Who did coach want to stay? Who wanted to stay as well? If you're able to keep able to keep some key players, specifically Shita Wata. She only played in 20 games last year between December and February. 11 points per game, 4 rebounds, 44% from the field, 35% from the three-point line, 82% from the free throw line. And then KJ Custard, 9 points, 5 rebounds, a block a game. And then Riley Layton, 8 points per game, 5 rebounds. You're able to keep those three. I think that puts you off to a good start. You're able to bring in some of your key recruiting class members. I think it's going to be a fun team to watch for sure. As far as the floor goes, because this team is new, I know I put them in trappers. Sometimes new can be a little unpredictable. I think they are closer to growers than trappers because it is a first-year institution. So I probably would put Bushnell over. But we'll get to that. I think you just do what you did last year. If you can get to the playoff like you did last year, I think that's a ceiling level. I don't really have a floor because, again, I have nothing to compare it to. So I'm really just going to go off ceiling for this team. They get to the playoffs, successful season. If they don't, I don't think it's an unsuccessful season. It just means we got something to shoot for next year. Last team, Bushnell. I think, again, I would put them over Warner Pacific. Finished 5th in the conference last year. Missed the playoffs by 1 game. Major returners probably going to be Maddie Garrett. 8 points per game, 5 rebounds, 37% from the field, 81 from the free throw line. And then you've got Sabrina Flowers, 7 points, 2 rebounds a night. You're losing Aiden Krupik, 15 points per game, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 32% from the field. And then Kenzie Peterson, 8 points, 5 rebounds a night. Main storyline for me, sophomore duo. Maddie and Sabrina, going to need to ask more offensively. For Maddie, I think it's scoring. She was efficient last year. Again, 37 from the field, 82 from the free throw line. She should be a 10-point per game scorer, respectfully. I think she's going to get more touches. I think she should get more touches. I think she will be a double-digit scoring threat every single night. For Sabrina, it's efficiency. She was not the most efficient last year. 27% from the field, 28, I'll round up, and then 26% from the three-point line. Definitely not what you need if you're going to be one of the top 2 options on this team. I think if she cleans that up, she will get close to 10 points per game as well. So those are the 2 that I'm looking for to lead this offensive charge for Bushnell. Recruiting class, immediate impact. Let's see if they can get someone to be able to come in and help right away. That would be huge for this team. Similar to Northwest, I don't know if the recruiting class hits for this team. I don't know if I want to face them in the first round. I don't know if I want to face them in the dog days of the regular season. I don't know if I want to do that. That's just me though. And then development. You're only graduating 2 players from last year. How do the returning players use the missing of the postseason by 1 game to kind of motivate them and get them locked in for this season and making a run at it and finally getting over that hump and getting into the postseason that probably they felt like they should have been there last year. And rightfully so. Why wouldn't they? You're only out by 1 game. By 1 game. You win 1 more game that you lost, you probably are that final team in the conference. And who knows? Maybe you may pull off the upset. You never know. We'll never know. For the floor, I think I'm looking at about 5 to 6 conference wins. Again, puts you in that realm. These 2 teams specifically, Bushnell and Northwest, they are right there in the same realm. They are more trappers than anything. I would definitely put Warner Pacific a little more closer to growers. But I think this is going to be an interesting team, and the ceiling was the playoffs because you didn't get there last year. If you get there this year, consider that a win in my book. A little longer of an episode so far. Again, probably one of the deepest teams in the country, so kind of understand why. But I do hope you guys did enjoy my Cascade preview, episode 4. 4 in, guys. 4 in. We're almost a fifth of the way. A quarter of the way. Quarter of the way in. Bear with me. It's still summer, so the brain's not all there yet. But we're almost a quarter of the way in. We will catch you guys next week for episode number 5. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.